My serve receive is so effective because of this principle. It even applies to pips. I figured this out when I played with medium pips. If you don't want to get jammed by fast, deep serves, as long as you fix your elbow and swing from below it to above it, the ball will go on. When it comes to switching from penhold to shakehand, there's really no debate. I've never met a single player who committed to the switch from penhold to shakehand and regretted it. But it won't work if you can't stick with it. But if you've only played for 3 to 5 years, or even 7 to 8 years, you should make the change. I strongly advise you to switch. In 6 months, you can surpass your current penhold level, but you must be consistent. You can't play shakehand for 2 days and then go back to penhold. You have to see it through. Alright, today's topic is service reception. We'll cover how to receive serves when you know it's sidespin topspin and when you know it's sidespin backspin. Let's start with sidespin topspin. Many amateur players just passively pat the ball back against sidespin topspin serves. A passive push like that is useless. The opponent serves to your backhand deep precisely to set up their next attack. Let me teach you 2 techniques. First, position your racket here, just like in a defensive block. Think about your blocking position. Isn't your racket right here? To receive a sidespin topspin serve, use that same defensive racket position. Start right here. I'm not taking a backswing, this is the starting point. From here, meet the ball forward. Shorten the stroke path. This is your backhand attack position, and this is your block position. For the receive, bring your hand further forward. Don't worry about how much kick or spin the ball has. The more you meet it in front, the less you'll be affected by its pace, and the higher the quality of your return. So, get your hand out in front of your body. With this quality of return, it becomes very difficult for your opponent to power loop you. The same principle applies to the penhold block. My father also brings his racket forward to block topspin. If you block from too far back, you'll hit it long. Get closer to the ball. This is why you can hit 100 backhand drives against topspin but miss the serve receive. You're taking too big of a backswing. Don't draw your arm back too far. From your normal blocking position, just punch forward. Keep the motion compact and avoid clashing with the ball's force. When your opponent serves fast, long, and with a tricky bounce, they want you to take a big swing, clash with the ball's force, and hit it out. The reason many amateurs miss sidespin topspin serves is they take a second backswing as the ball arrives. If you prepare, then pull back again before going forward, you're guaranteed to hit it long. On the receive, do not take a big backswing. The receive is one technique where a large backswing is a liability. The second option is to rip it. For this, you can take a slightly larger backswing. As the ball comes, point the V of your hand forward to rip through it. This will add more quality to your return. Point the V forward and you can generate much more pace and spin. You're ripping over the ball, not hitting flat through it. This applies to both no-spin, flat, and topspin serves. You don't hit through these like a backhand drive, you must close your racket angle and brush over the ball. Because the topspin will make the ball jump up off your racket. Let me show you what happens when you hit through it. You can't commit to the shot. Now, point the V forward and close the racket angle. Even with a big swing, the ball will land. The key is the V of your hand forward and a closed racket angle. Then, accelerate forward and over the ball, effectively pressing down on that upward kicking trajectory. However, this only works if the serve is indeed sidespin topspin. So, as long as you can get over the top middle part of the ball and rip it, you'll avoid making errors. Now, let's discuss whether you can push a sidespin topspin serve. The result is that even if you open your racket angle, you'll pop up a slow, high ball that any decent player will smash. The point is, against a heavy sidespin topspin serve, you cannot push. You must handle it with an attacking stroke, although you can adjust the power. The second type is the half-spin, half-no-spin serve, which is very common in amateur play. Can you push this ball? The reason we make mistakes pushing this serve is that when we see it's fast and long, we instinctively just pat at it. That's the problem. Don't pat it. Be confident and guide the ball forward. So, when the ball comes, actively push it long. When you guide it forward, you use its pace and extend your follow-through. This will send the ball deep, making it difficult for your opponent to loop. If you return a high, slow, half-long ball, your opponent can easily flick or hit it with a short stroke. Even when you push, you have to make it awkward for your opponent. Your return must pose some kind of threat. So when receiving this ball, don't just stop your arm abruptly after contact. If it has a little spin, it will go into the net. You must follow through. Don't assume you can be static just because it's a long serve. You must follow through on long balls. When you execute the follow-through, you'll see the second bounce is very deep. With that trajectory, your opponent can't easily power loop you. Second secret, here's how to keep your push from going high. Your racket must always be higher than the ball. If the peak of the bounce is here, your racket needs to start at least here. This allows you to hit the ball with the bottom half of your racket on the way down. If the peak of the bounce is here but your hand starts down here, your push will go high. It's the same for the forehand. If your racket starts below the ball's peak bounce, your return will pop up. Most amateur serves are half spinny, either slightly sidespin backspin or slightly sidespin topspin. Extremely spinny serves are actually easier to handle, you just need to get them back on the table. So, when you decide to push, don't just go through the motions. Aim to push it long, low, and with some spin so you can survive the next shot. Therefore, your backswing must account for the height of the bounce. You have to watch the ball, judge its height, and adjust your racket height accordingly. If the ball's peak is this high, my hand needs to be this high. From this position, I can find the right contact point on the lower half of the ball. Contact every ball at this point. If you contact the upper half, it will either pop up or go long. So, whenever I decide to push, I must judge the peak of the bounce and raise my hand higher than it. A push from this position will be very tricky and difficult for the opponent to attack. For half-spin serves, my hand starts above my chest. Only for very heavy backspin can my hand start at chest level. If amateur players start their push from around their stomach, of course the ball is going to go high. To push well, your racket position is key. Use your elbow as a pivot and your forearm to adjust the height. For heavy spin, my forearm is low. For half-spin serves, I raise my forearm to find the correct contact point. Third point, do not push the very back of the ball. That's a dangerous habit. On a left side spin serve, no matter where you aim, you must slightly adjust your racket angle. If you push the direct back of the ball, it will tend to pop up. Do not contact the very back of the ball. With the same spin, if I aim slightly to the side, I can get it over. The young player I'm coaching now, I've taught him from the start to always push the side of the ball to build a good habit. He does this on his forehand too. Even when pushing down the line, he contacts the side. This makes him less susceptible to spin. Contact the side of the ball to avoid its strongest rotation. This makes receiving much easier, especially for beginners. Beginners don't have the wrist snap to neutralize heavy spin, so you must use technique. Fourth, pushing a long serve is about using your opponent's pace. If you add too much of your own power, you'll just push it off the table. So, your arm should not be tense. Even though I say to send the racket forward, what's actually moving forward is the racket head. It's the racket head that provides the forward motion. As the ball comes, use the racket head. It's not your upper arm and forearm pushing forward. That is incorrect. Using the racket head like this is correct. Watch, it's all in the racket head. Now for footwork. If you watch closely, for all my pushes, even on long balls, I'm always stepping in. I'm always stepping in with my foot. This is to properly time the ball and use my body weight. If I just stand still, and the ball is a little short, I'll be reaching for it. I step in to connect my body's force with the ball at impact. You must step in for long serves, even ones that seem to be jamming you. Even against the fastest serves, it's like blocking a power loop. I can stand my ground and handle it. You can't stand too close initially because you need to be ready to attack. From this position, you can loop. If you decide not to loop, use your right foot to step in and adjust. As the ball comes, place your right foot forward to meet it. Step forward with your right foot to meet the ball. if you push this ball well, it's very difficult for them to attack. They won't have time to recover before your ball is on them. For any ball on the backhand side, unless it's extremely wide, you should step in with your right foot. As soon as you see it's long, step in to use its pace. It becomes much easier to push. Second, let's talk about body height. When pushing a long ball to your backhand, don't bend your knees too much. This is different from our usual advice. Normally, for looping backspin, we tell you to get low. If you get too low, your hand will drop too. The biggest mistake when pushing long serves is crouching down as you make contact. In a match, if I decide to push, my center of gravity will be relatively high. Why? Because by staying higher, I can keep my hand high. If you crouch down, your hand naturally drops. When you're more upright, your hand can stay up, allowing you to execute a forward downward pushing motion. This creates a much more threatening push. If you're too low, you can't get your hand this high. But if you stand up taller, you can. You might think I'm standing too tall. But this is the ideal position for pushing a half-spin serve. Does it look like my hand is a bit high? In reality, this is the correct starting position for an effective push against this type of serve. Even with a shakehand grip, this is the right position. You can be low in your ready position, but when you decide to push, you must rise up to meet the ball. Because it's a half-spin serve. Now, let's move on to attacking long serves. I played with medium pips for 3 years, so I know them well. Medium pips are inconsistent, sometimes you have the touch, sometimes you don't. It's not about your feel for the ball, it's just the nature of the rubber. So, my feeling for receiving with pips is to use a block push, like a traditional block. If you try to use inverted techniques like forearm rotation or absorbing the pace, you'll constantly lose grip and the ball will slide off. Pips are also very sensitive to the playing conditions, the hall, the humidity, the table. The difference between seamless and seamed balls is much more dramatic for pips players. So for pips players, your options are block push and block brush. Prioritize the block element. Don't let the pips bend too much and create a strong reaction with the incoming ball. Because once the pips bend too much, you're at the mercy of the rubber, and the ball will just slide off. So focus on block pushing and block brushing. Now for inverted rubbers. When I was young, I was a very good medium pips player and got results quickly. But my dad wanted me to switch to inverted since most national team players use it. And pips players often end up as just practice partners. If I had stuck with pips, I might have made the team as a special style. But even then, you're just a training partner, imitating other styles. After playing with inverted for so many years, the biggest difference I feel is that it's much more consistent than pips. So why are you inconsistent? Let's break it down. You're making your hand too stiff. When your hand is stiff, you lose all feel for the ball. The feeling on a serve receive should be this on first contact. When I touch the ball, its energy is absorbed by my soft hand, not repelled by a hard block. What's the main problem with our receive? Many players decide to fight the ball before they even touch it, trying to jam it back. That's wrong. You have to trust your touch. When the ball comes, establish a friendly contact first. You must first cradle the ball on your racket, and then send it out. Don't treat every serve like a simple topspin ball. Let me demonstrate a few loops on long serves. Receiving a long serve to the backhand should be an effortless action. So why do amateurs struggle with it? First, as I said, your hand is too stiff. This creates too much direct impact and not enough brush, which kills the friction needed to control the spin. The contact time is too short to execute a proper brushing motion. You have to welcome the ball onto your racket first. Think of it in 2 steps. First, absorb and control it. Second, accelerate and send it out. Don't be in a rush to get the ball off your racket. First, catch it and feel it. Absorb the pace, and then execute your stroke. The actual motion is instantaneous, but this is the feeling you should have. So, the first touch on any receive must be soft. That's why my loops looked so easy. Second, don't use a large overall motion. A good long serve is designed to jam you. If I use the same technique but with a bigger swing, I'll definitely get jammed by the pace. But if I keep the motion compact, with the same amount of brush, the ball goes on the table. Simply put, if you get jammed, it's because the ball has left your racket before your stroke is complete. You failed to counteract the spin, so you fall into their trap, backspin goes in the net, topspin goes long. A player with a good long serve beats you with pace, not just spin. Why can you push it successfully? Because the motion is small. A small, compact motion is less affected by spin. When you receive serve, your stroke must be compact. Let me demonstrate. For the backhand receive, let me teach you a crucial tip. Keep your elbow fixed. Don't let it move. Position it just below your chest. Watch this in slow motion. This is the feeling. Your elbow is the pivot point, this is the key. First, drop your forearm. Then drive it forward and up. In short, your backswing is below the elbow, and your contact is above the elbow. Backswing below the elbow, contact above the elbow. Let me do it slowly, below the elbow, then above the elbow. Let me show you the common mistake. Below the elbow, above the elbow. Watch closely. When I do it fast, this is what it looks like. You see? During my backswing, my elbow didn't move, did it? My serve receive is so effective because of this principle. It applies to both penhold and shakehand. It even applies to pips. I figured this out when I played with medium pips. Listen, if you don't want to get jammed. I'm not talking about slow serves, on those, you have a large margin for error. I'm talking about fast, jamming serves. As long as you fix your elbow and swing from below it to above it, the ball will go on. Just prevent your elbow from moving too much, sideways, up, or forward. This will make your return consistent. It's the same for penhold. Lock the elbow. Below the elbow. Above the elbow, go. Below the elbow, above the elbow, go. If you perfect this and stop letting your elbow drift, push, or wobble, you won't get jammed. You create a stable base, which allows for a much faster forearm snap, preventing you from being rushed. If the elbow moves, the stroke loses compactness and you become vulnerable to the spin. But don't raise your elbow too high, as if you're ripping a topspin ball. Keep your elbow just below your chest, and use your forearm to swing from below it to above it.